Here's what nobody tells you about finding high-paying freelance clients. So if you're looking at other freelancers who are making a full-time income, they have high-paying clients, they're talking about how to get high-paying clients, and you maybe understand cold pitching, and maybe you understand how to create a portfolio, how to create your website. You understand the basics of setting yourself up as a freelancer, but this whole high-paying client notion feels really elusive and really out of reach for you. And I'm gonna give you two reasons why. I'm just gonna start with the most obvious, is that you're probably in a niche where it's very hard to command a high rate unless you're one of the freelancers that's at the top. So that means you have a really solid portfolio, you've worked for really impressive logos and brands, you have a really solid website, you're probably getting word of mouth referrals, so you're at the top of your field. Now, that's the obvious. You're just not in a high-paying niche, so you can't command higher rates. But here's what a lot of people don't tell you about commanding high rates as a freelancer. It's that it is a numbers game, and it's a lot of trial and error, and it's a lot of incremental adjustments to your rates before you can get to the point where you're confidently commanding a high rate every time. And what also no one talks about is the fact that you get on the call with clients and they say no to your prices, right? Like, freelancers don't want to go around admitting that clients tell them, I'm sorry, that's just not in my budget. I'm sorry, I'm just not willing to pay that. No one wants to admit that, but that's the reality. And that's why when I say, pitching clients is a numbers game, so is getting the right clients, so is proposing your prices to the right clients. That's a numbers game too. But nobody wants to admit that because it makes it seem like, oh, well, if it's just a numbers game, anyone can do it. Or if it's a numbers game, that means that I'm not as good as I think I am. And there's no shame in just admitting that, hey, I've had 5 clients say no before I had this one client agree to my $800 proposed blog post proposal. What's wrong with that? Not everybody you meet with is going to be a good fit for you, and that's okay. But that's why we do have to play the numbers game as freelancers. And when I say numbers game, I don't mean sending all of these bad pitches that have nothing to do with the prospect, all of these non-personalized pitches, all of these blanket pitches that get ignored. Not that, but you do have to put in the work. You do have to target a certain number of clients until you get one that is going to say yes to your high paying rates, your expensive rate. And not every client is willing to do that, and that's okay. So you have to put in the work on a daily basis to keep reaching out to new clients, even after you have your established client base, because at a certain point you're going to want to keep raising your rates, because the higher your rates are, the less clients you have to work with. And then at that point, if a client can no longer pay you that rate, you might have to find a new client, unfortunately. I know not a lot of people want to do that because they want to stick with their clients and be loyal, but if it's not paying your bills, you have to up your rate. Ed's copy said, is it appropriate to offer discounts if he doesn't have enough budget? It depends on your situation, Ed. So for example, right now I'm very much so in a building phase because I took a little detour and took a full-time role, left the role, and now I'm getting back into freelancing. So I'm literally on the streets cold pitching every single day. Now, because I'm at this very beginning phase, I was willing to drop my rate a little bit. However, I'm dropping my rate in accordance to the monthly income goal that I know I need to make for myself. So if my goal is $6,000 a month and I drop my rate for this one client, that means that I'm basically needing to make up for that somewhere, and it's going to result in more work. So you just have to be strategic by setting your monthly income goal and then working backwards. And if you have a client that comes back and says, I can't do that, but I can do this, then before you answer, take a deep breath, evaluate, and say, can I afford to take on this client for this lower rate? Is this really going to serve me? Or am I better off going on LinkedIn, writing cold pitches, and finding somebody that will pay my rate? And that's where your LinkedIn profile, your portfolio, and your website, and having that stuff buttoned up is your biggest source of comfort and confidence, because no matter what happens with certain clients, you know that you can find another client, you can drop a client that maybe isn't making you happy or isn't paying you what you need to be paid, and you can find somebody that is going to meet your needs. But you first have to have the confidence that, yes, my portfolio is dialed in, yes, my website is dialed in, and also my cold pitch is dialed in, so I know I can get on LinkedIn and send 25 messages. I know I'm going to have a conversion rate of X, and that's going to result eventually in this client. So throughout my freelance career, even when I'm working with clients, I always say to myself, because I am more of an emotional person, I do have that anxiety where I'm constantly worrying, okay, is this client happy with me? Am I going to be able to make this work? A lot of overthinking. And I think a lot of us writers are like that. And the number one thing, and I don't know if this is right or wrong, but it works for me, is I say to myself, okay, worst case scenario, if this doesn't work out, if this client's not happy with me, or if I raise my rates and this client drops off, I know that I have the infrastructure in place to replace that client. And as savage as that sounds, and as unfriendly and cold-hearted as that sounds, it's what we as freelancers need to understand and really need to embody and say, I'm hoping for the best outcome here, but I know if it doesn't go my way, I have my security, which is my online presence that I have worked to build. I have my portfolio, my website, my LinkedIn profile, and my cold pitch. So those are the two reasons to wrap up. Number one, you're just not in a high-paying niche, and you need to be in a niche where you can confidently and where it makes sense for you to command a higher rate. Unfortunately, some of the more fun niches like health and wellness are very saturated, and it doesn't mean you can't make a good living there. It might just mean you're gonna have to work harder, that you're gonna have more competition. Maybe you'll have to take on lower paying clients in the beginning to build yourself up when you're in a really saturated and competitive niche like that. Whereas if you're in something like tech, where I am, there's less competition because it's deemed as harder. I don't know if it really is harder or more difficult, but it's deemed as difficult, so people shy away from it. I don't know if that's really true. I always see these articles, on LinkedIn. LinkedIn News will say, it's so hard to break into tech. How? I mean, how is it hard? I just think nobody wants to do it because it's freaking boring and it seems difficult. Yeah, you're gonna have to learn a little bit more, but so that's the case with anything. So I don't know where that comes from, that tech is hard to get into. There's like a million tech companies out there, and not a lot of people that want to do it. So for me, it's, in my opinion, it's ripe for the picking. But you have to be in a high-paying niche. Think finance, think real estate. These smaller like coaches and course creators, they might not have the budget. So you want to really think of industries that have big marketing budgets, then you can definitely command a higher rate in that sense. But number two, what nobody wants to talk about, and the reason why it's hard to command a high rate, is that it's a numbers game, and that you need to get rejected a few times. You have to have a few clients tell you that, no, I'm sorry, that's not in the budget. And then you have to move on and pitch someone else who does have the budget. That's the big secret to commanding high rates, is incrementally adjusting your rates, constantly pitching, and playing that numbers game. Now, if you want help with your cold pitch, visit paidcopywriter.com. I have cold pitch templates that show you how to interact in every situation. So all of the different cold pitches you need to send, from the introduction, your invitation connection on LinkedIn, the message that you can fully pitch and include all your links to your portfolio. I have all the follow-up messages, because we don't want to send messages that say just following up, because it's kind of, it's just not the best. It doesn't provide value and it's kind of lazy. So I provide all the templates, but then throughout the relationship, there's 30 plus templates in this packet that will show you, okay, he asked for pricing now, what do I do? He asked for a contract, here's what you do. And in these templates, I have mini lessons explaining what's going on behind the scenes, right? Because giving you a template, but then not educating you on why you're using that template or why you're saying what you're saying is not useful. You need to have the lessons. So I have mini lessons on top of each template And that's a massive template pack with 30 plus templates of how to handle clients. Go to paidcopywriter.com and take a look at those cold pitch templates. They are for you. I created them based on all the experiences I had as a freelancer, as well as all of the questions my course students have asked me on how to handle clients. I hope that helps.